What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe.
It is Tuesday here. It is 9 o'clock, so you know what that means. We're going to talk to our guy, Nick Underhill, neworleans.football. Now, Nick, how you doing? Always a pleasure.
Doing good, doing good. How you doing?
How many beers deep would you be at Epcot if it was open for 1 minute and 43 seconds?
0, man. I don't partake. I have my own beer, but I don't really drink. So I would still be a 0. You know, just fighting the fight.
And I can appreciate that. You know, everybody's built a little bit different, and our guy T-Bob Hebert is, well, he's built the mostest. All right, let's get to the New Orleans Saints and what we saw on Sunday. Kind of a weird game to break down. You turn the TV on, first play for the New Orleans Saints, interception, and you're like, oh, man, here we go. And then you look up, it's 21-0, and, like, that's discouraging. And you see the comeback, and, God, you can appreciate the fight. It's so hard to come back in the NFL. Typically, that game ends 35-3, or it ends 42-10 or something like that. They fought like hell to get back into that game, and you fall just short. So let's go through the totality of the game. Kind of initially 21-0. What were your thoughts?
It 21-0. I reached over, I tapped Mike Triplett, and I was like, we got to write that this is the end. Like, I thought it was over. Like, I thought they were going to have to fire everybody by Monday morning. And I know that's not their method of operation. They want to be patient. They want to wait. They want to let the season play out. But if you get beat in a game like that, 42-10, 35-3, 50-10, whatever it looked like it was going to be, and you got the lower bowl of the stadium is all Lions fans, everybody's booing your team. You got "Let's Go Lions" chants coming up through the building. At a certain point, it becomes a business decision, and you're losing, you know, your financial base at that sense, and you're almost forced into taking action. And I thought that was the point that it had reached. And then, like you said, they fought back. They keep going. I think it was enough to keep it together. And you can almost look at this game, if it was out of context from the rest of the season, and find things to be positive about. I like the fight. I like that Derek Carr went 15-15. I like, the way Chris Olave played. There were a lot of things that I thought went well during the comeback, but, it's just too much of that. It's too much of the same. It's too much of the, just kind of being stuck in the mud, and you kind of get to the end of it, and it's just like, it's just kind of like nothing. Like, I don't really know how to put it, but the thing I would say is last year it was games like this where, you kept seeing the fight, the players not quitting, that I thought got Dennis Allen year 2. I don't think that's enough to get him year 3. Like, you actually have to start winning some of these games. And this was just another lost opportunity. And the slow starts are a huge issue. And I thought the most interesting thing to come out of the game is Colin Saunders after the game said they aren't scouting them well enough, and they aren't preparing well enough for what teams are doing at the start of games. And we've seen it now like 6-7 weeks in a row where they get off to these slow starts. So they got to figure that out. That's a coaching issue. All of it's a coaching issue, and it's just more of the same, man.
And, okay, so some of the things that we wanted to see be better, red zone offense. Like, it was, like, you're 4-4. Like, if you take a deep dive into it, though, Detroit, one of the worst teams in the league at stopping teams in the red zone, one of the worst teams stopping teams through the air. And so, like, the success, although it's exciting because you've been so bad, it's like you take a look at who you did it against, and still, like, you kind of like, all right, was that really more of the Saints or was that more of the Lions? And so it's a weird game because, like, I want to take positive things from it, Nick, but like when you do like a deep dive into the analytics of it, like, you should be doing those things.
Yeah, and look, here's the thing that's going to end up happening with the way the season plays out is, like you just said, they went 4-4 in the red zone against one of the worst red zone teams. And then the rest of the schedule is pretty soft. So you're going to see things that you like about this team down the stretch. And people are going to talk about it. And, it's going to need to be put into context. Because if you go and you beat Carolina and you beat the Giants, like, all right, like, what does that really mean? These are 2 of the worst teams in the league. You put up some better numbers. The red zone numbers are going to look better. Yeah. The offense is going to look better. And it's not going to mean anything because you're measuring yourself against just the worst teams in the league at this point down the stretch. The Rams is probably the only tough game left. They look like they're playing a little bit better. They got their offense going. That's going to be a hard game. But the other 4, like, are all extremely, extremely winnable games. And I expect the Saints to look decent in them. The only real question right now is whether or not Derek Carr plays. I think he probably shouldn't at this point. Just
we're talking about 2 concussions in 4 weeks, correct?
Yeah, and then 3 shoulder injuries. He's got a rib injury. I think that there might be some wisdom in just kind of taking a step back, allowing things to decompress a little bit, kind of get everything under control, get the narrative just kind of calm down, allow him to get into a better headspace, allow that frustration to kind of boil away a little bit, and then kind of come back at it. I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world, but I think they'll still probably win this game against Carolina with Jameis at quarterback. And again, I think people are going to be really positive about some of the stuff they're seeing, but I think it needs to be kept in proper context, and hopefully them showing life against bad teams isn't the thing that kind of like erases everything else that happens, sort of like as a palate cleanser at the end, because that would be a real shame for them to buy back into this when I think we have enough evidence to kind of know what it really is.
So, Nick, obviously, like, we talk about the Saints every day. You talk about the Saints every day. So, like, when we're taking a look at what the Saints should do at quarterback, maybe we have different thoughts than others across the country. Like, if you listen to the announcers on the broadcast, they were surprised that Taysom Hill wasn't the quarterback. Like, when Jameis came in, I mean, I don't know how many times they said the Jameis experience. They must have gotten paid every time they said it. They said it like 10 times, like, within 3 minutes. But they were, thinking that Taysom Hill maybe should be the quarterback. Like, what's like that noise like on the outside? Like, obviously we're close to the situation here, and we think the Saints will put Jameis Winston in there. Taysom Hill will kind of stay the same. Like, is there a lot of people that think Taysom should be the quarterback right now with Derek Carr out if he does, in fact, miss this game?
Yeah, it's definitely divided. There's a ton of people that think that way. Sometimes I think that way too. I just don't think that they would do it. But the problem with going to Taysom is that you can't make the full commitment to him. And I will go down, I'll be on my dying bed wondering what it would look like if they would have ever fully committed to Taysom. I don't even think Sean Payton did it. I don't think they went far enough in that direction. They kind of like tried to add it in with what they were doing instead of just kind of tearing it down and building a whole new system around him. And I think it could have succeeded in, higher fashion probably. But here's the reason why I would go with Jameis. Like, I think that you can split the snaps if you wanted to. You could play Taysom more if you wanted to, but I think that you lose some of that element of surprise with your offense. You lose a lot of your creativity. There's just a lot of things you're unable to do if you go to Taysom full time at quarterback. So I think you got to use the combination and just kind of up Taysom's usage within it. And I think there's things that Jameis does well. I think there's things that Taysom does well. And I think if you get creative enough, there's a good blend for both of them. But look, Jameis has had and one of the reasons I say I would step back if I were Carr, Jameis has had every opportunity to steal this job, and he just hasn't. He hasn't. He's come in and he threw the pick against Tampa. I think that was probably an unfair situation to put him in. Blew the 17-point lead against the Packers. I think that was a bad situation to put him in. The Minnesota game, it looked like there was some weirdness there. And I don't want to say too much here. I've heard whispers about some different things about just kind of like issues about like just, things that were happening on the field. So until we confirm that up, I'm going to back off it. So I won't put full stock in that. But this one too, like he didn't throw a good pass this whole game. So there were just some situations where, I think that, I think that he could have took the job and he didn't. So if I were Carr, I'd be okay with taking the step back and kind of looking at it from that distance. But look, I think Jameis could play a little bit better if he got to start to build a game plan around him. I still kind of want to see it. We haven't seen him with good weapons. He's got Chris Olave now. Like, there's just things that I would like to see about it. But yeah, I don't think that they go to Taysom, but I could see an argument for it for sure.
So no matter who plays quarterback, you've got to run the football better. And that is something the Saints have just not been able to do. And I don't think it's because of who they have running the ball, a.k.a. Taysom Hill. Like, whoever you give the ball to, it's been hard. And as I watched the end zone copy of the Saints this week, and I said it yesterday, I'm not sure where to tell the running back where to go. You know what I mean? Like, I'm watching the play, and inside, outside zone, no matter what it is, I'm like, as a running back watching tape, if I was their coach, if I was a running back coach, Nick, I don't know where I'd tell them to go because there's just not a lot there. It's guys losing on the front side. So when they lose on the front side, you want to cut it backside. Then the guy on the backside is losing, and there's just nowhere to go. And it doesn't matter who plays quarterback. Like, and I keep picking on him, and I'm sorry, but if Cesar Ruiz keeps blocking in the run game like he is, I'm not sure it matters what quarterback, because you're going to basically turn into somebody who can only do one thing, which is throw the football for success.
Yeah, look, they have not figured it out. It's a massive disappointment. And, they got to start looking at everything from the coaching. The offensive line coach, I think, has left something to be desired. You haven't gotten anything out of Trevor Penning. Maybe Trevor Penning's just a bust. But look, he wasn't even in there in the jumbo package on Sunday, which is just kind of insane at this point. You pointed out Caesar. I think Caesar's kind of been disappointing there. Across the board, I think everybody except for McCoy and Ramczyk, I think has left a lot to be desired in that area of the game. And, that's what they have to be. You're supposed to be taking pressure off of these quarterbacks. Derek Carr isn't supposed to have to go out there and win games for you singularly. It's supposed to be like a supportive effort. The one thing we've been hammering on the play action, you are seeing more play action. They're seeing a little bit more success with some of those plays. But, if you're running the ball better, I think those plays become even more effective. So it's something that has to get, we keep saying has to get figured out, has to get figured out, has to get figured out. It's like, we're at the end of the season.
I know.
They ain't figuring it out. It's
right.
probably cooked at this point. But, yeah, I mean, it's a massive disappointment. Look at all the investment on that line. Like, you go across first round, second round, first round, like just down the line, and none of them are playing up to par. And it's a massive issue. I mean, I think the misses on the offensive line and kind of just offensive line, defensive line, I think those things legitimately are going to set the organization back years, because you got to keep going back to the well to draft them. And now you aren't getting better at other positions. So it's they don't have the money to pay them. You can't go out and like sign, these dudes. I mean, they always find a way, but like, man, if you're setting up your contracts on guys behind guys you drafted, you're double dipping on your resources.
Yep.
The only way their cap management works is if they don't make mistakes, and they're making huge, huge mistakes right now on these positions.
You're right about that. And so when I look at the matchup this week, well, Carolina, right, bad football team, but they're 4th in the NFL against the pass. Now they're 23rd against the run, so that would tell me, what do we have to do? Well, we have to run the football. But I'm not sure that this Saints team can run the football against anyone. But that's what it tells you, because they are really good against the pass. And so, I don't love the matchup. It's a bad football team. They've won a singular game. It was close the last time you played them. Like, if you lose this game, we've been talking about it, and it is what it is. Dennis Allen, 10th worst winning percentage in NFL history as a head coach. If you lose to a one-win team that's already fired their coach, playing as bad as they are, if that's not enough, Nick, then it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with that. Look, if you lose to them in the Superdome, like, it is going to be hideous. And I'm telling you, this atmosphere on Sunday was the wildest one I've ever been in the Superdome. I've never seen it like that. The only one that came close to it was the Bills. I think they're in 2020. There were a lot of Bills fans in there, but the booing Derek Carr, cheering Taysom Hill going in.
Yeah.
The "Let's Go Lions" chants were loud, man.
And Detroit's not a team that typically, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I played in the AFC, but like, Detroit's not typically a team that takes over your stadium. Like, you'll have that against the Packers or the Steelers or somebody. Like, Detroit, that's the team that's taking over your stadium?
I've never seen it, but look, I'll with fairness to Detroit, I've never seen Detroit with a good team in my lifetime. So
that is so fair. That's a hell of a point, Nick. That's a great point.
Yeah. I don't know what they're like when they're motivated. They might have just been sitting back for 2 decades waiting for their moment. So this might have been it, but it was crazy in there. Like, it was wild. And if they lose to Carolina, I don't think we're going to see Carolina fans take it over, which might be worse for the Saints, because that just means there's more anger in the building amongst their own fans. So they got to win. They got to win this game. If you lose this game, I mean, I think the city might make the decision for you. And I hear stories about like how Tom Benson used to get like cussed out in the community and stuff. And like, that would kind of bring like change to it. Like, I think this is the message. Like, and they got to listen. You can't lose to Carolina. I don't know. Like I said, I thought it was done this week, just because I'm thinking like, okay, you lose this game, they turned on you. You're going to just bring the fans back here 2 weeks in a row to just tee off on you after losing this game in the stadium in that fashion. And again, I think they silenced a lot of it. You were hearing cheers by the end. People bought back in, but
yeah,
if you lose to Carolina, a 1-win team, I don't know how you just stay the course.
Yeah, and so, like, I look at the Saints situation, and look, they're the team because they haven't had a lot of success in their franchise history, right? Early 90s was fun. Early 2000s, there was some fun, but we know what the Saints organization is, and it didn't change until Drew Brees and Sean Payton. And then once it did, it's like, man, you had so many bad relationships, and you finally find the one. And you have the one, and it's going great for like a decade plus. And then all of a sudden, because life is life, the one even turns sour. But you're holding on to that one, Nick, because you don't want to let go, because you remember the good times. You remember what it felt like when you found the one. And that's where the Saints are right now. Like, they're holding on to the good times because they just didn't have a lot. And in some aspect, like, I know what you're doing, because like, you've had so many few moments in your franchise history, you don't want to let go. You don't want that window to close, but it's slammed shut. It's no longer open. And that's the thing. It's like, this team, I think they can be more with something new, but it's just like they're holding on to pieces, and no team in the NFL has really held on to pieces this long like the Saints. Like, it happens, sure. Like, and even New England, like in Bill Belichick, that might change this year. I think the Saints just have to realize that the one was great while it lasted, but now it's time to tell the kids.
I agree. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Look, I understand trying to keep it together. Like, there was logic in it. There was merit to the thought process.
I agree,
but
yes.
It's just kind of in your face at this point that it is what it is. This is as good as it's going to get. You had every opportunity this season to be, run away with it. I mean, they had every injury break where their schedule, I think I seen the other day, is like third weakest in the NFL. Like, they had every opportunity to run away with this thing and they didn't. So the fact that you didn't, and now your defense is part of the problem, it just feels like it's run its course. It really does. And maybe we're wrong here. Maybe they went out or whatever, but like, it get in the playoffs, win a game. But like right now, today, looking at it, it is hard to see anything else but like, all right, they tried this, didn't work how they wanted. So what happens next?
Yeah. Man, gosh, it's just such a great run. Superdome. I mean, just peak of NFL fandom. I know anytime that I came in as a visitor, it was always weird, by the way, coming into the Superdome as a visitor, but it was always one of the best atmospheres that I played in the NFL. It matched Arrowhead and all the great stadiums, Heinz and all those. And you still have the fans, but you will lose the fans if you don't start to change your ways. Nick, what do y'all have coming up this week? neworleans.football always doing the biggest things. What do y'all have coming up this week?
Right now working on breaking down why they can't cover tight ends, which is one of the wildest things. They used to it used to be like you didn't play a tight end. If you were a fantasy player, you had a tight end going against the Saints, you didn't play him. Yeah, it's terrible, man. It's terrible. So trying to figure out that, just doing the autopsy of why this season is falling apart.
Yeah. That's going to be a great read. It's going to be a sad read, but it's worth it. It's going to be worth reading while the Saints can't cover a tight end. Sam Laporta just caught another pass as we were doing this interview. Nick, man, we always appreciate the time. Great stuff as always. We'll catch up with you next week.
Yeah, take it easy, man.
Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.